episode 37, Cleanup Club.
The obligatory 90s environmental episode.
Yep.
This episode is, I can really only describe it as a time capsule. This is so emblematic of the 90s approach in children's media to environmentalism and climate change. Now, obviously, they didn't know what we know now regarding global warming, climate change, the effects of recycling and pollution, and just how complex the actual problem and solutions would require, the systemic changes that would need to occur for effective combating of climate change and global warming. Instead, this comes down from the era of like the Captain Planet, if we just recycle and we throw away our trash and we don't just litter, then you'll save the planet. And unfortunately, at least in my perception, it leaves this episode feeling a little preachy.
But it was funny.
But it was funny. And I think it's important that we look at the actual plot to kind of understand where I'm coming from with the idea.
It's actually a school episode. They're back in actually show with Miss Appleby. They're making video projects, and the theme appears to be save the planet, environmentalism, yada yada. Trini makes this video showing all the pollution in the lakes and everything, and I think you said that was actually real footage from environmentalism.
Yeah, that was real, that was probably real stock footage of nature shots. It looked like something right out of like an old World Wildlife Fund video, like something I would see on like the Animal Planet back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it, it looked great. And it definitely gave the right tone for, for an environmentalism message. And, after the video project, they then begin this sort of throughout the episode montage of collecting trash, going out to the park, setting up recycle. But they don't really do any like lessons necessarily, which you would normally expect from a lot of children's media. They would kind of include, here's how to recycle properly.
I don't know if I'd ever want a PDA in a Power Rangers.
Sure, or PSA.
PSA, right.
Yeah. And I get that. And so instead of having a PSA, rather they use the Power Rangers as sort of a call to action. Instead of, how do you throw away the trash? It's more, look, even the Power Rangers are willing to collect trash in the park.
Yeah. There's the cleanup club. I don't know if they joined it or started it. But my favorite thing, they all got the shirts matching and they've all got their colored jeans pants. Where do you get pink, red, and yellow jeans? I don't know, but they got them.
And, I mean, it fits, it matches the aesthetic, and
I also like that Jason converted his into a muscle shirt. They don't draw attention to that, he just did.
Right, and, like, it definitely helps to show their characters, and ultimately, at the end of the day, they are trying to do good, and they do genuinely put in an effort.
Yeah, the cleanup montage is pretty fun. They're actually, like, doing backflips and stuff to pick up trash. And Bulk and Skull, their project is, they're trying to make Bulk look like a hero in a video project Skull's filming.
Right, and like Bulk and Skull are just kind of doing their own thing, and they're interfering, but they're not meaning to interfere. They're literally just in their own business.
They're trying to steal credit.
They're trying to steal credit, sure, but even then, they're mostly independent of everything going on with the Power Rangers. They're not interfering with the environmentalism.
Well, fun thing, after the Rangers picked up a whole park of trash, Bulk was hiding under the garbage bags they piled up.
Which I don't understand. We saw that pile grow. There was no opportunity for him to just appear.
The only thing was maybe, while they were so wrapped up cleaning, throwing bags, at one point he came from behind a tree and dived under it.
Which I can only gather that's what happened.
But why?
In the midst of all that, we see who I think might be the dumbest named monster we have ever gotten on this show.
The Poluticorn?
The Poluticorn. Get a load of this dude. This is this is the quintessential 90s like environmental bad guy. I'm going to put pollutants in the air. What are pollutants? You don't need to know that, children. Just know that they're bad. Like,
Well, yeah. The stock footage didn't show any Golem or Putty fights, but we did get a civilian one, and it was pretty well coordinated.
it was. And it, they made a point of
A pyramid.
still showing off their cleanup club. And they did that weird, like,
Pyramid.
cheerleader pyramid stunt, which looked good, but
Yeah, but all of them got some good moves in. Even Billy's kicking butt. They've really improved all of them.
oh, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, like, it is still a good fight.
Yeah.
But I will say,
Hmm.
the Ranger segments seem very disconnected and kind of all over the place compared to the live action segment or the non-stock footage segments. Those feel consistent. Those feels a good message. It frankly almost feels like they could have just abandoned the Power Ranger aspect and made this fully just them trying to save the planet irrespective of Rita Repulsa.
Oh.
And it might have worked just as effectively.
Oh, that would never have gone over well with ratings.
Oh, sure. We know, based on how things were then, the formula was king. But I'm just sitting here going, the consistent message, it would have been, I think, more interesting to save the planet without, the big monster fight.
Yeah, Poluticorn. If you haven't guessed, in Sentai, that wasn't really a pollution-themed monster. It was just a unicorn or Pegasus-themed monster.
No, really? And the generic, abandoned building was that they said was the recycling plant,
And they also called it a factory.
and they called it a factory too. Which and the fact that they ranger up, fight, get their butts handed to them,
Retreat.
retreat to Zordon, where he then explains what the Poluticorn is.
Where they do an analysis. And apparently the command center has a printer now.
Right.
Where it prints a bunch of blank paper on Alpha.
Where then Billy then just goes, the unicorn's power comes from its horn.
Yeah,
And I'm sitting here going no. The big glowing thing on its forehead?
Yeah, Billy gets a lot of nonsensical analysis. He takes a soil sample before they start cleaning, puts it in a beaker, it turns green, and it stinks, it's bad. Then after they pick up all the paper and cans, it's clear.
Which, mind you, does absolutely nothing to affect the soil.
I'm pretty sure you can't do a soil sample like that to begin with.
You can kind of do, generic soil samples, but if you're wanting, to figure out the specific pollutant in the soil that you're trying to remove, that would require more complex tools and instruments. You could do a generic, which would give you these sorts of, this range of chemical is in the soil. You could do the same with water samples, too.
I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure if you pick up a drop of soil and your whole beaker turns green, isn't that like radiation or something?
No, that would just probably... If you had that much pollutant in your soil, you have far, far more problems than picking up trash. Because you apparently live in Springfield.
Apparently not, because after they pick it all up, it goes clear. Anyway, yeah. Oh yeah, they do the morphic sequence again. There's two of them.
They do it twice, and then when they get to the Zord fight, they don't even do build the mech. The mech's just already built, and they just okay, and we just jump into it, and we immediately fight.
One high point, We do get to see Jason use the dragon shield again, and with the dragon dagger, cuts off the horn before it grows.
I don't know. It feels like the Zord fight.
It's really short.
Yeah, the Zord fight was there because it feels like they were formulaically obligated to have a Zord fight.
Well, that wasn't strictly our fault. That's pretty much what they had to work with.
Exactly. So it's like
without the horn, it gets a hit in at least, but it goes down to just the Megazord. There's no Dragon Zord this time.
The non-Zord fight was actually pretty good. Like when we actually got to see it.
Goldar and Scorpino were actually helping out, though they didn't grow with the monster.
They didn't, and they didn't. We didn't really get to see them fight the other Rangers all that much. It really focused heavily on the Red Ranger.
Yeah, we got to see them get a cut in with the others, but then they, I guess, off screen just left. Like, we're good.
Right. I don't get that one. Like the ending seemed a little bit off, and they were focusing so much on the like non-Ranger segments that I'm willing to bet there probably wasn't a whole lot of stock footage to use with regards to this episode.
Sometimes stock footage involves a lot of unmorphed scenes and they have to cut around it.
I have a feeling this was one of those episodes that was a Ranger light episode.
Well, speaking of awkward editing, the ending. Back in class and Bulk and Skull rushed to turn in their video project that apparently Skull did all the editing for on a VHS tape. How do you do that in 1993? Yeah, video editing was way harder before computers were common and digital cameras. I don't know how. How do you edit a VHS tape?
You would actually take out the clips, and you would actually have to trim off the parts of the footage you didn't want, and then tape the film back together again.
Yeah, well, James Rolfe, the Angry Nerd, used to use 2 VCRs and tape over it to edit.
You could do that. You could do that too.
That's really difficult.
It is, yeah, because you're trying to essentially move to precise locations on your film frame or on your tape.
Well, they got it in, and Skull did a bad job showing really just the high points, making Bulk cut say stuff like, "Teacher, Miss Appleby, she can't teach."
And this is one of those circumstances where Bulk really didn't do too much wrong here.
Well, he did knock over everyone's display. He tripped on it.
He
Skull did too.
He did, but he tripped. Like, that wasn't intentional. That was him being clumsy. Skull ruined their project. Messed with their project by being an idiot. I feel for Bulk in this episode.
But what do you expect? Try to edit a VHS in one day and have Skull do it? Who was clearly the less intelligent of the two.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm also, it's just, I feel for Bulk in this episode. As a filmmaker, I feel for Bulk.
Yeah.
Editing has always been the worst part of...
As a writer, I don't feel for the writers.
But looking for the score, I was laughing, but I was laughing at the cringy 90s cheese. But I cannot see myself watching this episode again. So I think I have to give this a 2 out of 5.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm going to give it a solid 3 because I actually did enjoy it. I wouldn't list it on one of my recommended or favorites, but I'd put it on again, if not just for the background noise.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. It was definitely a back to basics. Felt more like an early season 1 episode.
Definitely an early episode.
Minus the Dragon Shield. But whatever. It's done, and now we've got... next is A Bad Reflection on You.
Episode 38.
Yep. So, see you then. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, bye.
Arrow! Ranger!